It's a writer's week! I mean, technically speaking, it's only a writer's day and it's on March 3rd, but who cares? Let's celebrate the whole week! It's still much shorter time span than the one needed to finish a novel. Oh, also, speaking of books. Today we're going to talk about 3 different bookbinding variants. Making a new journal with empty pages, the popular option. Binding your own book, the creative writer option. And creating aesthetic scrapbooks. The hey listen, maybe let's not throw away all those nice unused papers. I know it's a chocolate packaging, but it can work still, okay? Option. But before we do that, I have to show you something. Are you excited? I am. But let's go back to the books. Clean journals. Making new journals is probably the most popular and discussed branch of bookbinding. All you need to start making some beautiful ones, a lot of paper, thin string, big sewing needle, glue, and something to make the covers, which I will discuss in a minute. First, you need to prepare the sheets. Sorry in advance for my accent. In double the size of what you want your booklet/notebook/journal to be. Then group them by 4 or 6 sheets, fold in a half, and punch some holes in the folding line. You can do this with scissors or craft knife, but things like a small knitting needle will probably work too. You need to make at least 6 holes. 2 for the upper edge, but not too close. 2 on the bottom and 2 in the middle. Then it's time to sew all those paper groups together. Remember to loop the string between groups for a stronger connection. When you're done, cover the newly formed spine with glue. It's best to keep the future journal spine up and still and squished. You can achieve that by using clasps or just stacking 2 encyclopedia mountains on both sides of the pages. Next day, apply the glue once again and this time cover it with gross grain ribbon. Remember to push it into all the crevices created by the stitching support. Edges of the ribbon should slightly stick out at the ends. You can burn the edges later or hem them if you want your journal to be super fancy. Once all those glue layers dry, it's time for the covers. And here is your biggest chance to do something creative. Would you like to do a traditional cover with some decorative paper both in and out? Or cover everything with leather? For example, from an old broken bag to make the journal look aesthetic as heck. Or maybe you'd like to use wood planks, medieval style. Or make a fabric cover. The possibilities are endless. It all depends on your creativity and purpose your journal is created for. Either way, it will look awesome, and every time someone asks you, where did you buy this beautiful thing? You'll be able to flex a little with your creative skills. Don't be shy, you deserve the praise. Binding your book. So, to bind your book to the mortal plane, you need to perform a ritual. No, I'm kidding. But sentient, otherworldly books sounds like a cool story idea, huh? The way you'll bind your book depends on whether said book is already printed as a manuscript or is still in your computer. And let me give you a spoiler, both variants are annoying. What? There is a reason why authors pay someone else to do that. Anyway, if your literary masterpiece is still in digital land, first you should break it. No, not like that. You need to prepare the pages, so they later can be printed in the A5 format. Just remember to make inner margins twice as big as half of it will be eaten by the binding. And that's all. Happy printing! What? You know I'm lying, huh? Well, yeah, actually it's not so easy. Remember how in the first section I mentioned grouping pages? That and the fact that every sheet of paper in the book has 4 different pages complicates things a little. You see, every piece of paper needs to have the earliest pages possible on the left and the latest pages possible on the right. It's an easy thing with comics and booklets, but it gets more confusing in books. Just take a look at any hardcover book. You should be able to notice this when the book is closed, but if you have trouble, open the book and flip through it. From time to time, you'll be able to see not two separate pages, but one bigger sheet of paper with the stitching in the middle. And if you try to leave the upper or bottom edge of the pages, you'll be able to notice the whole sections. So as you can see, printing a book requires a lot of breaking and planning, and of course, you can skip all of that by just cutting the sheets and gluing them together softcover book style, but let's be honest. It's not the strongest binding, and the more pages there are, the bigger chances that spine will snap. Unless you have a very strong glue and can read stuff with a book half closed, I wouldn't recommend that option. So yeah, once you take care of all that printing mess, the process is the same as described in the first section. At this point, you will probably have no more power to do anything fancy, so a piece of cardboard, decorative paper, and some sturdy corners will do the trick. If your manuscript is already printed and the pages overwhelm your eyes with the power of A4, you have no choice. Gluing is the only option. The end result may not be the most practical, but it will look super cool on your bookshelf. Trust me, I did it once. First, you need to prepare a lot of clasps and encyclopedias. If at any points in your writing history you printed your manuscript on only one side of each sheet of paper, you know it will look like a beast. Take that clasp brick of a script and stack it between two mountains of anything heavy. You will need to file off a few rows for the string to put it later, but from my experience it's better to give it a layer of glue first. Without any real bookbinding equipment, it may be really hard to keep the manuscript in one place for most of the process, so that initial layer of glue may help a little. After filing off rows, the more the better, but you should have at least 3, you need to put pieces of string into them and cover them with gross grain ribbon. Of course, do all of that using generous amounts of glue, as the ribbing is basically the only thing keeping all of the pages together. After the glue dries, cover the spine with it once again and hide it under the ribbon. Give it at least 1 day to dry and move on to the cover. Since the whole thing is in one piece, mostly because you ask nicely and not because it was properly sewed together, no matter what you do, the pages may separate from the cover, so just be prepared to accept some imperfections. And that's it for this section. We can now move on to the project all bookbinding enthusiasts could indulge in from time to time, especially when the stash of random cutouts and nice paper remains so big things no longer fit into one drawer. Making the real scrapbook. As you saw in my latest introductory video, scrapbooking usually means that scraps end up in a book. But what if book was made from scraps? All you need for this project is some cardboard, interesting papers, and something to keep everything together. Be that a string, stitching, or an elastic. Things that can be easily removed, so a string and an elastic are probably the best idea, since you will probably adding and maybe removing some pages in the future. Just prepare a cardboard cover, leaving the spine as wide as you like, group all your random aesthetically pleasing papers into smaller groups and attach them to the finished cover with a string or elastic. And voila! But every paper is ideal for writing, but a scrapbook like that can also be used as a photo album or memorabilia full of cards and papers reminding you of some special time or place. Also, any text can be written on another paper and glued in or simply put on a sticker. And if you prefer to have a properly binded scrapbook, consider, instead of using sheets of random paper, making your own by processing the scraps. But how to do that, you ask? Well, you'll be able to gain some paper making knowledge by watching my next video. Also, remember about spring spinning? We're gonna spin a lot in upcoming months. Thank you for watching and see you in 2 weeks. Bye!